Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Complete Creative, the podcast that helps you build and sustain a better creative business. And today on the show, we have my friend, Greg Anderson Elysée. I've known Greg for a long time. I honestly don't even remember when we met. It was probably during the campaign for his Is Nana the Were-Spider Volume 1, when he was using an artist that I know very well, Walter Osley. And we got to talking, and we became friends. We became friends ever since. We both love mythology. We both love writing. We both love anthologies. And it was great to talk with him for an hour. He has a new Kickstarter live right now for his Is Nana the Were-Spider Volume 3. And I really enjoyed this book. I went back and I read all three stories before we did this interview. And I can't recommend it highly enough. So definitely check that out. While you're on Kickstarter, check out my book, Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter Volume 2, which is live right now. And now I'm going to drop you into our conversation, which is already in progress.
My first question for you is the most important. What would Is Nana do at a comedy club? Like, do you think that he would understand comedy? Do you think that he would just be blank to it? Do you think he would dislike it? Like, how do you think he would react if you took him to see, like, some comedian?
I love this question because it's hinted in Volume 1 that Anansi is a comedian on the side. And I wanted to sort of touch on that in a later story. So Is Nana is sort of familiar with comedy. As to the style of comedy, sometimes some of it goes over his head. Because, you know, he has a completely different upbringing, different sense of the way he looks at the world. But for the most part, I'd say because of him starting to get more accustomed to our world, he's getting a better appreciation of comedy, and he's starting to understand the comedy that comes from his father, who's, once again, a comedian on the side.
Yeah, I just reread all of both volumes. And it was striking to me, especially when Jeremy Buttons, right? Yes, Jeremy Tableau, I knew that was wrong, comes in that, like, you're actually very good at comedy. Like, Is Nana just is a very specific kind of comedy and a very specific way of talking. But, like, Jeremy Tableau is, like, hilarious. And, like, I love him and I want to be friends with him, but also don't want to see him more than once a year.
I'm very happy to hear that. The funny thing about Tableau, he was actually the character I was working on before Is Nana. And I was working on it for a couple of years. I had an artist who was down to, you know, do a book, and we did a couple of issues together. But the working relationship, unfortunately, wasn't too healthy, I guess, between the two of us. So we sort of scrapped it. And I created sort of Is Nana as sort of like a backup. And when Is Nana, like, blew up, had sort of an idea of using Jeremy again, and so I felt like there was a perfect opening, and I set him up in Volume 1 and was able to bring him for Volume 2. He's definitely going to be coming back for a couple, like, guest appearances, but I'm definitely not going to have him in every story. I know a lot of people ended up really loving him, but I definitely want to, you know, keep him sort of as this weird, mysterious character on the side.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where he works best. Like, for instance, when you first get introduced to him, you are in this weird, like, realm, and you're like, okay, I know this isn't Earth, but, like, where is it? What is it? And the whole first story that you see of him is just this complete, like, mind trip. And I honestly didn't understand what was happening until Legba later talked about what was happening. I was like, I don't know what this is. I just like it.
I've definitely had some people, someone told me when they first read, I think it was Volume 2, and Jeremy's small segment in the very beginning, they just thought, why the hell would Greg put this? I don't understand what's the meaning of this thing. And I think that was looked at as something to critique against the book until they got to the end and they saw how everything came together, and then it was like, oh, okay, I understand now why you set that up in the very beginning of the story.
Yeah, I gotta talk about this last story, man, because it is one of the most ambitious things I've ever seen as far as independent comics go. Could you talk a little about this, like, sort of probably the biggest chunk of this book in the last piece, because I got to dig into this. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yeah, so talk a little bit about like this. Maybe actually let's rewind a little bit, because we kind of just dropped in right to the middle of the conversation, and I think people might be a little bit confused. Could you talk a little bit about Isnana first, and then we'll get into this ridiculously bonkers, amazing like last story in the second volume.
Sure, yeah. So Isnana the Were Spider is based off of the stories of Anansi the Spider from West Africa and Caribbean folklore. My character Isnana is his son. And essentially, it's a story, a father and son story of the two of them trying to stop these creatures from causing chaos while trying not to drive each other crazy at the same time. And what I'm trying to do with the concept is use it as a way to introduce people to more black mythological gods and heroes. Because, growing up in school, it's not like we were educated on them. It was usually Greek mythology or Norse mythology or European fairy tales, which I love. I have a huge love and appreciation for them. But I remember being so taken aback when I found out that, wait, there's black gods out there? And unfortunately, you can name a whole bunch of black gods or ask people if they can name any, and they're lost. They have no idea who counts as one. And maybe you'll get someone who understands who Anansi is. Maybe you'll get someone who knows John Henry, and that will be about it. So my whole mission with this series was to sort of use this as a sort of guideline of getting people to get interested in who some of these deities and heroes of different black folklore, spirituality, and hopefully do their own research to find out who they are.
Well, and if you take the specific place mythology of Anansi, the whole like Nyame all the way down through is a really fascinating mythology to dive into the rabbit hole on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning myself. It's funny because I think a lot of people try to once in a while try to test me on certain things, and sometimes I can answer certain stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like, they would educate me at the same time, and I would be like, okay, whatever you just told me, now I'm going to put that in my book, because there's just a well of stories and knowledge when it comes to a lot of African and black diaspora stories, and we're not like I'm still learning, as I said, and whatever I learn, I try to keep it in the back of my mind. I'm always buying different books. I'm always doing research. If I'll find a friend, I could be at his bookshelf and I see an African folklore book, I'll literally take it and start, snapshotting different pages, just for different ideas, because I just think it's a well of knowledge that a lot of people aren't quite aware of until it's brought to them.
Yeah, I mean, between this book, and then like what Unique Studios is doing, and a couple of others, I mean, I love all mythology. Like, I'm just the mythology. Like, whatever the mythology is, I don't care. I'll take like Indian mythology, Chinese mythology, Japanese mythology, African mythology, whatever it is, and just like really dive in. And I love seeing the similarities, because a lot of this, I mean, they're all explaining natural phenomena, and so a lot of these like gods and stuff have a lot of overlapping qualities, but also to see all of the differences that like that each mythology brought to the table.
Speaking of mythology, I want to say I really enjoyed your short in modern mythology.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I enjoyed yours too. Yeah, we both were in this modern mythology book together, and I thought it was really well put together. But I really enjoyed your, and I enjoyed it even more going back and reading the two Anansi stories, the two Anansi books, and the John Henry book again.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Theseus. Theseus is probably my favorite Greek mythology story. So that was like, yes, when I read yours.
Yeah, I always felt bad for the Minotaur. I felt bad for all of these, like the monsters in the mythology. Like I don't know why, in Greek mythology especially, like the monsters always seemed like they were, the real tragic heroes of the whole story. Like they were like the Minotaur didn't ask to be born. Like he didn't have. Well, I don't know if I'm just going to go into it because, like, the way that we both know, I'm worried about saying it on air, but I'm going to because it's like like his mother like had sex with like a bull in a very like weird like it's a very weird like thing that the gods like punished her, and like and this minotaur was born, and like he lives in this labyrinth, having to survive on like whatever food and explorers come, and like it's just tragic. It's as tragic as Medusa or tragic as any of these other things, and I love flipping that stuff on its head and showing that the things that we believe are monsters really probably just been indoctrinated to believe that and are not as bad as you believe.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So I got to talk about this last story. So Anansi is 2 volumes right now. Volume 1 and Volume 2, they're made up of like 4 or 5 stories, maybe 10 stories each. And this last one is Jeremy Tableau and Anansi, and
It's not
is bonkers.
Nana.
Sorry, yes, sorry, it's Nana. And it is bonkers. Could you talk a little bit about like that particular story and what it took to bring so many artists together to work on it?
Yeah, that was that was definitely a journey for me. For one, I've been a huge fan and supporter of a lot of independent comics, especially a lot of Black independent comics. I remember when I first discovered them, and it was like my mind just blew up. I had no idea a lot of these things existed, and so a part of me, I was always, before I even made Is Nana, I was always trying to find ways that I can try to market and push a lot of Black independent books and other indie books in general as well. And I felt when I started doing Is Nana, I started thinking, what's a way that I could still push a lot of creators with their own concepts for other people to see. And I thought it would have been fun just to see a little bit of like a crossover between Is Nana and some of these other characters that I've enjoyed for some time now. And so I contacted a couple of them. I told them the idea that I had, and I thought it made sense that we can play around with styles as well, given that Is Nana can jump through different dimensions and different realms and so on and so forth. And I just thought that I also love seeing different artists do their own version of my character. And so that was also a way for me to do that at the same time, while also playing around with their concepts of their stories and everything like that. So I contacted a couple. There was some that didn't want to do it. I respected that. I didn't mind that. And there was some that jumped on it. And it was. I mean, in terms of timing, sometimes you got to be on certain creators' asses, because it's just like, guys, we have a schedule. I want to get this out by now. And also, Volume 2 took a little longer than I wanted it to before it came out. So I think that gave a little bit more leeway for some creators to work on it and so on and so forth. But it definitely was a rewarding experience, being able to work with these creators in some concept, in some form. And I think it came out wonderful. I love looking back on it, just seeing the fact that it came out the way it did and seeing how many people enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't expect it when they were reading the book. And so that was also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely did not expect it. So it's Is Nana and Jeremy Tableau trying to find this dimension jumping dog for Legba, and they end up through many different like worlds and realities, ending up inside these other comic books done by other Black creators. And it's fabulous, and the turn at the end is fabulous, and it's something that you set up earlier in the volume about like making like using the webbing in the way that you did in that, and so to see that callback and have it all come together was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I had a lot of fun with it. I've been asked if I can see myself doing it again. I generally tried not to do the same things over again, but that's trying to think of a way that I can try to implement something similar to it is something I'm trying to think of.
Well, it's great, and I really love this idea of like doing different stories in each volume. What was it? What is it about the anthology concept that really sparked your imagination for doing Is Nana that way?
Well, for me, I my mind just always is always all over the place when it comes to coming up with concepts and story ideas. And it's funny you asked this because just yesterday I was thinking about the fact that the story is non-linear. Like I introduce like the origin, but I don't really stay on the origin. And it's like there's points throughout volume 1 and 2 where things about the origin is mentioned, but you still haven't quite seen the origin. And so I'm definitely gonna follow up on that. And it's just allowing like my headspace to just breathe, let it go where it wants to go, and at the same time, uh, I feel like life in some sense is also a bit non-linear because you have certain situations that happen, and when you're telling your story to somebody, you never stay on like a linear path. You're sort of jumping all over the place. And the next is not a Kickstarter that I'm doing that I'm hoping to launch next week. Actually, it actually takes place in between Volume 1 and Volume 2. So just I guess playing around with that sort of concept again, and at the same time, I get bored of the same type of stories, so I just like to jump around a lot.
Well, one thing that I really noticed, so in a lot of anthologies, you'll get some stories that are really great, and the art is really great, and the stories are really great, and some that are not, even when it's like a one creator anthology. And what I really loved about I keep saying Anansi, is Nana, is that you really seemed to turn into the strengths of each artist. So when you had someone like Walter, who has more like an ethereal kind of like weird style, the stories felt more. You moved more towards that direction, and when you had people doing a more like traditional style, you moved in that direction. When artists seemed to be really great at action, the stories were more action, and when they were better at character design, that you focus more on the character. It's not an easy task to find to do that to be able to write different stories for different artists. And was that something you thought about when you were making the book, or like how did that come about? Like how do you think about pairing an artist with your writing?
Well, for me, it's definitely something I'm very conscious about. When I first was looking for an artist for Isnana, I didn't want a particular look. I didn't want anything that was too realistic. I wanted something that was a lot more dynamic and just free flowing at the same time. Something very in your face. Whether it's like a Ramos or Chris Bacalo type of artwork, because I just feel like it's a comic book. I want it to look like a comic book. And so when I was looking for artists and Walter, came about, I remember looking through Shiver Bureau, which is his comic, his creator-owned comic, and I was thinking, this is it. This is what I want. And when I reached out to him and we started communicating, we had a great relationship, and we found out we had the same exact taste in favorite artists. And we were very jokey with each other, and already I knew, okay, this is like the perfect guy. And every time that I meet a different artist, I love seeing the different styles. I like finding out what their strengths are. And I also like to give them a little bit of leeway for them to play around with the concept at the same time. So I'm definitely not a writer who is very, no, it needs to be this, it needs to be this and that. If they have a particular idea they want to play around, they can shoot their shot with me. If I think it works, let's go for it. Sometimes I'll give them like a few pages where if you want to play around with, go for it, just as long as it stays with the same theme of what I'm going for. And so I think that's one way of keeping the relationship fresh, keeping the concept fresh, keeping what the artist is going to read seem very fresh and fun, and allowing your artist just to have fun as well. So it is a work for hire. I pay page rate, all that, whatever it is, the relationship is, the working relationship, but at the same time, I want them to have as much fun drawing it as I am coming up with it. And sometimes I like to ask them, what's something that you've always wanted to draw? What's something that you enjoy drawing? And I'll find some way to try to incorporate that into my stories.
I love that you said that, because I'm much the same way. I want, even though I also have the same relationship where I pay and then I own. It's really important for me that the artists feel some sort of ownership of the work, that it's something that they really want to draw, that they've always wanted to draw, like a genre that they really love. That like I am finding an artist and pairing them with work that will resonate with them. So often you find creators who, their projects don't get done because the artist doesn't finish them, and I always wonder how much of it is that the artist didn't feel connected to the work.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something that I find interesting because sometimes I would ask certain artists their not relationships, their experiences with certain writers, and sometimes they would tell me how much fun they have with my books because maybe a different creator they worked with before was very, straightforward. It wasn't anything that they could play around with, and I definitely believe in collaborative effort. I come from a film background, and nothing, as much as you can see the director's name on everything and it's their vision, it's really not just that particular director's vision. You have all these different creators that's involved in the making of the film, and I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to creating comic books, creating these different concepts. You just gotta allow people to breathe and have some fun.
Yeah, I always tell people I came from film and TV too, and I always tell people that once a director hires the actors, the old saying is that the job is 80% done. So I feel very I feel very strongly that you hire the people you think are going to do the work properly, and if you've hired correctly, then you should let them work and do their job and not get in their way too much.
Exactly.
So, I want to go. I don't know where I want to go next. I think I want to go to Kickstarter next because you've run a couple of Kickstarters, several Kickstarters, and I remember the one that you ran. I think it was the second one that you like finally got over like this big hump that you were getting over that you had like been struggling with for a couple of Kickstarters. And what is it about that sort of Kickstarter experience now that I know you've been part of at least 5 of them and some fashion. What is it about Kickstarter that keeps bringing you back, and what have you learned that like you have that has helped you in each campaign?
I think, well, I wonder if the hump thing was probably a different book I was working on, because I've been fortunate enough with this Nana to make our goals pretty quickly. And I feel like with that, it's just, it reaches out to different people from all over the world, who's looking for something new, something fresh that they can't get anywhere else. And I feel like it's a great way of getting a lot of different eyes, getting a lot of support. So sort of like looking for sponsors in a way, people who see your concept, they believe in the concept, and they want to just bring it from the ground up, and they want to share that journey with you, And I think in a way it almost sort of serves like a pre-order, and just to see like if there's an excitement, if there's a market for it. And I think that is that's something about Kickstarter that really, I guess, keeps having you come back, for more. It definitely alleviates a lot of pressure from your pockets, but it's still stressful in its own way. You get a lot of anxiety running a Kickstarter that is undescribable until you actually experience it yourself. Because now it's like you're hoping you can make the goal, and then afterwards now you're hoping that you can entertain the people that put all their money in there, and you're hoping that they could come back for the next one, hopefully. But it's definitely something that I appreciate. I love being a part of. Sometimes I'll breathe for a day after the Kickstarter, after all the stress, and then all of a sudden I can't wait to start a new one. It's a different type of feeling, and I'm very grateful for all the people that's involved in it, all the supporters that come from Kickstarter and they become good fans. Yeah, it's what I could say about that.
And so you're doing your third Kickstarter for this, or you're planning on doing your third Kickstarter for Isnana by the time this launches. Like theoretically, like this will exist, and this will go live when the third Kickstarter like is also live, and I'm wondering, do you feel pressure to not break your universe? Because I feel this huge pressure every time I do a book that like I fear I'm going to break it and everybody is going to like hate the work that I do now, no matter how many times I've done it successfully.
Well, first correction, quick. This is actually going to be the fourth Isnana Kickstarter. The third one was the one with John Henry, and the Rawhead and Bloody Bone storyline. The fourth one will be Isnana sort of hooking up with these b-boy dancers, and in New York, and he's going to become a dancer himself, sort of way, and just playing around with that concept. As to the pressure of it, I definitely am going through like a slight little anxiety of I'm hoping I can make the goal. I'm hoping that people could come back to support, especially during this particular pandemic situation that's going on, and financially a lot of people aren't at the same level that they were before. But at the same time, I've been seeing a lot of different creators. They've been doing very well at Kickstarter. The ones who could support, they're out there supporting them. And so I'm sort of crossing my fingers that I can get the same type of luck. And even though a lot of people are telling me, Greg, like you're stressing out over nothing, or you're going to surpass it. You have all this experience with Kickstarter. Your Kickstarters always do well. But at the same time, I want to believe that, but I won't believe it until I actually see it happen.
Oh, absolutely. You can't. So this is, and it's funny because, I give the same advice to people, but then it's much different living it. Like, it's much different being the person that's like, all right, like, in order to make this book, I have to get this money. Becomes less theoretical and more practical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, because I'm about to start the second volume of Ichabod Kickstarter in 2 weeks, and I'm definitely feeling it. And I've launched 3 this year, and each have done well. And part of my intellectual brain is saying, Russell, it's going to be fine. Like, the last one hit $16,000. You're asking for 17, and that was a single issue. This is a volume. Like, you'll be fine. But the other part of me is like, will it though? Like, will it be fine? And I am unclear of whether it will be fine or not. But then I look around at all of my friends. I had David Pepos on the show, and like he did $20,000 in like one day. Friend Ryland did really well. Friend Fabrice did like $40,000 for his Noir is the New Black, and I'm like, well, people are still doing like they're still funding on Kickstarter, even though this is like we're in the end of the world. And
I know.
I'm like, this is like the world is over. Like it feels like it's ending, but at the same time, like I still have to do the work of like putting a comic out there, and like it's a very weird time to be a creator of things.
Well, I mean, I agree completely. But from the outside looking in, dude, you are a freaking beast. Like I see the work that you put in, the way you hustle, and it's never ever surprised me when I see you launch a Kickstarter and then you make your goal. Because I'm just like, it's Russell. I mean, come on. Like, no one had any doubts. I had no doubts. It's going to happen. But at the same time, I understand that's how some people look at me. And I'm just like, yo, you don't understand the stress of hoping that, you guys are right. You know?
And like that it's still relevant. Like, it's so weird because, the book hasn't been, Ichabod has been out for 5 years. We did issue 5 last year, but like it's been a while since it's been quote unquote relevant into the mainstream. And so it's like, I know that some people still like it, but like enough people? Are there going to be enough people? And it's such an odd feeling to be like, because it's not like an ongoing comic, You're not doing it once a month. Like, you're not getting that validation every month that, like, oh, the numbers are still there, the numbers are still there, the numbers are still there. It's been a long time. And you're like, well, I understand that it used to be relevant at one point in the past, but just because it was relevant one time in the past does not mean it's still relevant at this moment. And I think that's where I thought that once I had done several in the same like multiple in the same series, I would feel better about it. But I still don't. And I don't know if it's just because like that's who I am, or because there's some real legitimate fear in there about like watching products go from super relevant to irrelevant. Like I've watched it in my own life.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we see that all the time. You have all these different artists in all various different art fields who were the thing, at that particular time, and sometimes they can still be producing great work, but yeah, they may not seem as relevant as they were before. Sometimes so much time passes in between that same sort of excitement has dwindled, you know, and I think it's just as long as we just keep going, because there's always going to be people who want to support, people who are fans. You still have a lot of fans asking for particular books that came out 20 years ago, asking, when the next one is going to show up. And sometimes you just got to hope that you can reach out to some of that same audience and at the same time try to get some new ones,
So
and
what
I
do you
mean,
do to do that? Like what? So you're a week out from launching. Like what is your sort of launch plan? What are you doing to get people excited for this book again?
well, my best, I have a mailing list. I'm hoping that people will open up their mailing list, to see that, oh, a new book is coming out. From people who get stuff from my website, I have their email addresses. Even though I got a whole bunch of people who came to my website for Free Comic Book Day because I did a free comic book special with a certain Isnana one shot that I'm hoping that they'd be willing to check it out after, if they've read it or not, they'd be willing to check it out and reach out to the same Kickstarter folks who supported the previous books. Social media, I'm usually pretty good with social media, so I'm hoping that can help. I'm hoping to do some interviews, some reviews, because the book is actually almost ready right now. We're just on the final lettering stages. From there, hopefully I can push some reviews out, and that could hopefully entice some people to check it out, even further if those reviews are positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watched that. I watched David Pepos do the OZ, and like the reviews he got definitely helped push it over the top. Always have a problem focusing on reviews as my thing because I never think that my stuff is relevant enough that reviews matter to like the average layman person. But I always am trying to get like influencers to like share the work, or I'm always, every time I do a Kickstarter, I have a little list of creators, like 200 or so creators, and I send all of them every comic that I've ever made for like free. And I'm just like, hey, I'm still doing stuff. Here's a new thing. Here's a new thing that I did. And I'm like, I'm not expecting you to read it. I'm just letting you know that it's here.
Got you. I mean, whatever you're doing, I think is working for you. I definitely gotta make more of a list of these different creators and reviewers. It's like I tend to lose track sometimes, but sometimes I will just do like a quick Google, is Nana reviewed, and just see who have reviewed it in the past and see if they're interested. And
Yeah, I just
check
did that
it out.
today. I just did it was a Ichabod Plus review, and because 2 weeks before every campaign launches, I send an email to my list that says, "Can you help me?" It's the same subject line, and it's hey, I just finished the final build of this thing. I'm looking for any insights that you have about like what I'm missing, whether it's good or not, like any typos that you catch, like whatever the thing is, because I figure that if they're not excited, and if the page doesn't excite them, then like there's no way that some rando is going to get excited by it. So I always want them first. And two people said, "Do you have any testimonials from like fans, and do you have any reviews on the page?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is a thing that I've done before. Like I actually have reviews of like these books because they've been out before." And so I went through Goodreads and I went through Amazon and I did like a review check on my site today just to see like what other reviews were out there, whether there were pull quotes that I can look at, and I actually just put them all on a big like new section on the website, on the Kickstarter page, just like, here's what other people are saying, here are some of my favorite reviews, and I don't know, I'm hoping that works. I've never done it before.
I'm about to steal that idea from you, man. I'm about to steal that testimony idea. It's funny because Goodreads is definitely a site that I don't really pay too much attention to, but I'm always surprised when I go on it and I find out that someone had uploaded my book there and they started leaving reviews there. I'm just like, holy crap, that's pretty cool. And I'm always interested to see, I guess you could call them like random fans as well, what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's like 50 or so reviews of the first volume of Ichabod. So I just went in and pulled all the 5-star ones that I could find, and then one of the fans who are on my email list emailed me a bunch of pull quotes this morning, and I was like, oh, like thank you, because I was gonna do that, and I know how long it would have taken for me to do it, so thank you. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend like reaching out and just because it's two things: the saying like, "Hey, will you help me look at this page?" And when you look at this page, it gets people excited. It gives you a reason to like talk to poke them and be like, "Hey, this thing is coming." It gives them a reason to go to the Kickstarter page and follow it, and then like look through it to make sure that they're excited, which will hopefully make them back sooner. And then it like also gives them some agency over the campaign, and they're like, okay, like you actually want my help, like I actually matter to like you and how you create your business, and like my opinion matters. And I take, I don't know, maybe I get like 20 or 30 emails slash comments on Kickstarter, and I take 80 to 90% of them. The only one I never take is I think this campaign page is too long, because I think in 12 campaigns, what I have learned is like longer is better. And generally, longer is better because I don't expect everyone to read every piece of my campaign page, but I know that people scroll to find a specific thing. And over the years, I just added pieces that that people have told me they wanted in the campaign page, and it's made it kind of a massive beast. But then I mostly just copy and paste now from like old campaigns to new, and then tweak everything.
I mean, I think that definitely makes sense to do as well. If you have, it's let's call it a franchise. You have your Ichabod franchise right now, and it also showcases how long you've been doing this. It's built up a fan base in some sorts. It's built up its own sort of mythos and history. So it makes sense that your page will be long. And I think it gives it gives different people, especially if it's new people, it gives them something like a treasure trove that they can go through and just see like, wow, he's done this and that with this book. And you also have sometimes you have some longtime fans who sort of use it as like a history, like let me go back to see where it's come from, and oh, I was around for this, and seeing how it's grown, since then. So also you have attention spans. Some people may not like it because their attention spans are short, but you can't please everyone.
Absolutely. And I did find another great thing about doing the testimonials is there are things that are hard for me to say about the book myself, like that it's actually quite funny. But when I could find but when I had like a review that said it was funny, I was like, that's perfect, because like that's what I want people to know, that like it's not dark, it's actually quite funny. And so yeah, that was I have not taken advantage of that for sure in the past, and so I hope that everybody who's listening that's doing a long-term series steals that and puts some reviews from both review sites, but also from fans on your page, because I think that it really built out the page in a way that I don't think I've never thought that there was anything new under the sun, that like I've been doing Kickstarter for so long. Like, well, I have everything on my page, but like when I put that on the page, it really like completed something and like unlocked something that I didn't know that I needed.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna steal that from you, man.
You should. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time together. Let us talk specifically. I know we've been talking theoretical terms about Isnana, but let's like talk about it one more time, and then we'll sort of work towards wrapping up. So, could you talk a little bit about the? I know you were inspired by African mythology, and you wanted to tell this, but like, why this story? Like, why is Nana? Like, why is it so important to you to tell this story and keep delving back into this world?
Well, for one, I want a lot of black people specifically to sort of be more knowledgeable on our different folklore, our different roots, our stories, our cultures. I've had people tell me that when they read Is Nana, they started doing their own research on their own sort of cultural backgrounds and stories and history. And to me, that was like a dream come true to hear because I would ask certain people if they knew who these different characters were, and they had no idea, but they can name Zeus and Hera and Heracles and Thor and Loki and Cinderella, and they can name all these European cultural characters, but they can't name any from their roots, if they're not European. And so I want to change that mentality. I want to change that concept, and I want people to know that we have characters who's just as cool as these Greek gods and Norse and European fairy tale characters. And so that's just my mission with Is Nana the Were Spider. I want to use that as sort of this gateway to learn about all these various different spirituality and folklore and mythology.
I love it. Is there a story besides the one that we talked about in length, the big one at the end of Volume 2 that you're particularly proud of, that you think people should particularly check out, or either Volume 1 or 2 if they were going to check out the work before the Kickstarter launched?
Ah, man, that's hard. I mean, I'm proud of. I felt like Volume 2 was a stronger book than Volume 1. So I would sort of say that because I felt like that was where everything came together, a little bit of what I wanted to do, and more of the different gods started coming about, but I also the one shot with John Henry, I think is a particular fan favorite. It sort of went further into me experimenting with different styles and storytelling and so on and so forth. So I would definitely say, checking out Volume 2, checking out the one shot with John Henry and Bloody Bones and Rawhead. But at the same time, I've had some people tell me they like Volume 1 the best for particular reasons. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for some ethereal type of introduction to Is Nana, a little bit of horror, definitely go for that. If you're going for more fantasy based, definitely go with Volume 2. If you're looking for a little bit of some haunted house with some science fiction elements, I'll definitely say the one shot with John Henry and Rawhead.
Awesome. I think that's a good explanation. Because Volume 2 definitely it scratched my fantasy itch more than Volume 1 did. I mean, you have Jeremy Tableau coming. You have Legba, who you don't really understand what's happening with that part until like the very end. And I do love Volume 2, how you set up all of these pieces, and you're kind of like, okay, this is an anthology, so these things like don't have to make sense in the grand scheme. It just could be like a thing that you like, but then it really all does pay off at the end. And to go back to what you were saying before, you then tease in that last story, in the second one, that like the lead up to this story is something that we haven't explored yet. So I'm like, now I have to like when are we going to talk about like this like kidnapping scenario that happened with Anansi?
It's coming, I promise. You just got to be patient, but it's coming.
But I really like that about the story. The Godsverse that I do is very similar, where like you can drop in and like get a good story, but like it's gonna make you like other things are referenced that are told in other pieces of the story, and I look forward to seeing it come together. So how we end this, we always end it the same way. Whereas if you could tell us where we can find you online, how. One piece of advice, either that you have already talked about, or that you would just like to bring up, something to people to leave about making comics or being a creative human, and then we'll say goodbye.
Cool. So you can find me. I'm on Facebook, Greg A. Elysée, Elysee. I'm on Twitter, Greg and Elysée. Instagram, Greg DAE. If you want to check out some Isnana books, you can find them at webway.ecwid.com. That's my web store. You'll find pretty much everything Isnana related, including merchandise like T-shirts, trading cards, PDFs of the series as well. Some type of advice. Man, I always have something off the top of my head, and right now I'm drawing a blank. But I'd say just write. You know, if you want to create, just create. A lot of people love to say, I have an idea, I have this idea, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they do not take the steps to actually start focusing on it. So I have so many people that tell me I have this idea, and I've said, did you write it? And they're like, no, I just don't. Nah, don't give yourself that excuse. Just sit down, write. Even if it's just setting aside 5 minutes just to sit down and write something. Those 5 minutes, you do it every day. You'll be surprised at how much writing you've gotten done by the end of the week, and who knows by the end of the month how much material you have that you can start, playing around with. And also, I'd say for writers as well, don't get stuck with writing everything in order. A lot of people like to start writing from the top of the story, and they get stuck and they don't know where to go, and it's just write out of order. Just have fun, and then from there you start to pick and piece everything like a puzzle to bring your story to life. Just write whatever excites you at the moment.
I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me, bro.
And we did it. We did a show.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Yeah, it was good. That was awesome. Feel good for you?
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Awesome, man. So I will make sure I will plan to put this up on the 8th of September. If for some reason your thing doesn't launch by then let me know and I'll push it. Like I can hold it until it goes live if for some reason there's a problem, but I'll plan on putting this live on the 8th. Does that work for you?
That works great.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. I just want to make sure it's Elysée, right?
Yeah, Elysée. Just think Ellie as in the name Ellie and say.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Bye.
All right, take care.
So that was my interview with Greg Anderson Elysée. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out Isnana the Were-Spider Volume 3. And while you're on Kickstarter, check out Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter Volume 2. If you love this show, then please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you download your podcasts. Thanks a lot, everyone. That's it for me.